Welcome to the Janome studio. My name is Ann Hine, and today we're talking about the Artistic Edge Cutter and some of the projects that you can do with the cutter along with the Artistic Digitizer software. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with our cutter, but when you open it up in here, you would be placing your blade in this area here, and your mat and the material that you're going to cut would go on the mat and run through the machine. All of this takes place through the software where you would tell it what blade pressure, where the cut would be, and all of that would be done in the software itself. So a few of the things that you can do, I have some crystal designs right here that I did with the software. These are just maybe half circles that I put using my crystals. And this was a little bit more dramatic design that I used a shape in the center, and then I had lines of crystals going out and used different sizes of crystals on there. So you can do many different things with the crystal application. And then coming over here, this is a little project I did. It's a mug rug, and it has fabric in it that I cut, applique fabric I cut on the Artistic Digitizer. So I was able to design it all, send it to my cutter, and then cut these shapes out. And as it was stitching, I could put the shape in there so I didn't have to trim it. You can also do etched glass. On here, I made a template for my glass. I applied it, and then there's a template, a material that you apply over your template that etches your glass. On this one, this is my favorite one, I did a little sewing machine. On the back, I put Janome and my name on the top so nobody can take my little spray bottle. This was done with one of those vinyls, just like this. So you would design it in the software, you apply this to the mat, cut it out, peel it off, and then you would stick it right on your little spray bottle. A great fun project to work on. The last one I want to talk about is my jacket up here. This is a much larger piece, all done the same way, designed in the software, sent to the cutter. It's an iron-on vinyl put on a jacket, and this jacket was actually seen in an ad somewhere for probably a lot more money than someone wanted to pay for it. Found a jacket very similar and did their own work on it. So this was a very easy project to do. So you can take your things that you see out there in the ready-to-wear world and make them personal to yourself. So let's get started with working with designs for the Artistic Edge Cutter. When I open my software, I want to go and move to the cutter mat so I can design right on the mat. You can stay in your embroidery mode and change it later if you'd like to. I just find it's easier for me to create in the proper space. So I'm going to click in here, click Janome, select cutters, and then I can pick which cutter I have and then which mat I want to use. So I'm going to use the 12 by 12. In your work area, you'll actually see the mat. I'm a little zoomed so I'm going to use my control and my mouse wheel to make it smaller. Get it nice in position. So I can see the mat now. It's a great visual, 12 blocks by 12 blocks, so I know I won't make it too large for my mat, and I can actually see the sizing. Up here are my techniques. Right now I have embroidery chosen. I can pick cut, and I'm going to pick crystals. I'll show you a quick thing on crystals. And okay. Now I need to find my graphic. This is the part sometimes people have a lot of hard time with. When you're looking for graphics, you do want to find a nice clear graphic. I did a search, and in my search window I typed sewing machine clip art. It brought me to a window that looked like this with lots of different clip arts, and I went through and picked the one I wanted. This was very simple, looked simple and clean. I selected it. Now from here I have to find out if this is a free clip art. So I went to up here to this page, Sweetheart Studio, and Sweetheart Studio found it on another page, so I went to that page, and that page person said they allow you to use that for free. So now I have my graphic. I can do three things with the graphic. I can download it if I want. I can right click on it, and I can save picture as. It will open a navigation window on my computer, and I can save it anywhere in my computer. I like to save to my desktop, and I have a special folder there called Working, and that's where I keep things that I'm working with that day, so I can keep track of them. And I would save it right there, and it saves as a JPEG. I already have it there, so I don't need to save it. The other thing I can do is right-click, select Copy, open my software, right-click again, and paste. Now, now the item is not saved, it's just a working file. And sometimes that's okay for me. I don't need to save it, but sometimes I want it saved first. I can crop out that little bit of lettering. This is new, the little crop feature, so you can crop your back out if you want. I'm going to select Auto Digitize and OK. I'm going to change my color limit to 2. Now my accuracy is fine. I don't have to check all those things off if I don't want to. I'm checking on that background, and I check OK, and it comes in, and it is in stitches because it's stitches is chosen over here, but I can choose artwork, and it turns it into artwork of both the background and the foreground of the black. And if I want to delete one of those, they're connected, so I would have to ungroup them. So I right-click, ungroup, and now I can select the white part and delete it. So I just have the outline of this piece if I want to work with that. Now, it's actually working in the fill area. So if I go to Outline and I go to Artwork, it's going to give me an outline, and I can delete my fill like that. So now I have just my outline. You could stay with a fill, it'll still just cut the outer part of it, that's fine. Now I have my outline, and if I wanted to resize this, I could. I can see here that it is a little over 4 inches high, and a little over maybe a little over 4 inches wide on there, depending on where I put it. I have to, if I want to put it in the corner here, I can see it a little better. So it's probably closer to, almost 3.5, something like that. But anyways, here's my image. If I wanted it bigger, I could increase it, or I could make it a little smaller. But I think that size, it's like 4 by 5, something in there, that range. It's pretty good from the outer part. If I needed to edit this outline at all, if I didn't think it was, sometimes your outlines have a lot of nodes in them, so they're not very smooth. And I cut this one already, so I know. But if I selected it, here's all the nodes. There's not a lot of nodes. Sometimes you'll see many, many, many of these dots and things, and that's what will make the cutter have to stop and go too many times. But this is a pretty straightforward, nice piece that I don't really need to make any changes to. Even this tiny little needle comes out very nice on there. So that's how you would play with your nodes. And I really like to work with the nodes and fix them and change them, change my item if it needs that. I'm going to select Cut over here, so it has the cut function, and it brings up my cutter presets. I'm going to click in here. I'm going to choose what I'm cutting. I'm cutting vinyl today, and the vinyl I'm cutting, the one I used in on my spray bottle, is 2 parts. It's the red vinyl that's sticky back, and then it has a backing on there. And when I put it on my mat, I put it down right side up so I see the red part, and I put the backing down. So I don't have to mirror image anything on this particular one, but when I get done, after I do my cut, I'll use what's called transfer tape. I'll peel away my negative area first. I'll lay my transfer tape on there and sort of press it over the sewing machine portion of it, and then I'll be able to peel that up and take that to my spray bottle or wherever I want to adhere it, and then place the transfer tape on there, press. The transfer tape will release the vinyl, and then I'll be able to pull it off carefully. That way you're not pulling this piece of vinyl up with those tiny little parts that could get messed up. And if you have lettering,
it'll keep all your lettering nice and straight. You won't be pulling your letters up one at a time and trying to place them. So take a look at transfer tape and how you use transfer tape. So I've chosen my vinyl, tells me what blade to put in, the blade depth, the pressure, and all of this. If I do a test cut, and I will do a test cut, it doesn't cut through just the vinyl, it doesn't get all the way through, I can come back in here and change the pressure here on my cutter. So that's what I would want to do, is to change my pressure there. Well, let's send this to the cutter. I'm not actually connected, but it will take me all the way to the cutter window so I can show you what that looks like. You can choose your cutter here. I'm with the edge, and then I'm just going to click here. So this is the window you get when you're connected to your cutter, and these would be highlighted if you were connected. It reminds you to put in your cutter blade of the red one. It doesn't know what one you've put in. You have to decide in those little caps, when you take one off, only take one off at a time so you don't mix them up. You'll want to use these highlighted buttons to move your mat in and out of the cutter with these two, and the blade housing left and right. So it's going to cut this piece here. Now I've chosen to put the frame around it. I'm going to turn that off for a minute. Here's without the frame. With a frame, it allows me to peel away all this area here first, leaving just this on the backing, and then I'll lay the transfer tape over that and pull that off the backing. That way it's a lot easier that way to do it. These little pieces around here, this shows you where you need to align your housing. The one that's highlighted is where you're going to align your cutter housing on your piece of vinyl. I like to use the top left corner of my vinyl, but you may want to put it anywhere around here on your piece of vinyl. Let me show you. I made a little thing here. Hopefully you can understand how this works. Here's my mat, and I've put a piece of vinyl down on my mat. This box here is going to be my vinyl. So I've chosen this corner up here, the top left corner. So when I put my mat into my machine, I'm going to use these buttons here to move my mat in and out. And then I'm going to use these two buttons to move my housing so that it aligns right up here, right here in the top left corner. My laser dot is going to be somewhere in that top left corner. I want to make sure when I align it that I need almost 5 inches of space. So I want to make sure I have 5 inches of space this way and at least 5 inches of space that way. So it will cut right in here. If I put my housing right here, it's going to cut this area and off into nowhere land. Now, my piece of vinyl, I could put it anywhere on my mat. I could have 2 and 3 pieces of vinyl on here, and I would just align it on each one of the parts I want to cut. So maybe my vinyl's down here. I would move my mat in and my housing over so that it would align right here, so that I know it would cut in this area. If you picked this bottom corner, you would want to make sure you would put your housing and your little laser light right here, and it's going to cut all in this area. So hopefully that gives you a better visual of where things go on your mat. I'm going to put this down out of the way now. So then it would cut my piece. And from there, I would take it off my vinyl and stick it on my bottle from that point.